and welcome to VFX Tutors. I'm Josh, and in this tutorial we're going to be continuing with creating our chainsword. So in the previous tutorial we created our sort of spaces to sort of logically sort of keep it not being too flimsy, and we created this wiring loom using splines, or curves, sorry. So now in this one we're going to create the drive chain, so that's the chain going from here to here. So it should be pretty simple. I'm going to just bring in my reference. I'm just going to go panels, orthographic, and front. Select my camera, image plane, import image. Then I'm just going to go to my reference. And I'm pretty sure everyone knows what a chain looks like, but I'll just bring in the reference anyway. Because it's very easy to slip away from the reference and it looks a bit weird, so that's always good. So I'm just going to bring this in. It's a pretty basic chain. It's only going to be, we're only going to model this figure of eight section. It's going to be duplicated in the middle, then these spaces in the middle and the pins. So it's going to be pretty simple. The one thing that we need to make sure is that, because although we modeled this, we haven't we need to make sure that this sprocket spacing matches this sprocket spacing. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to just select them both, Control D, Shift P. So I've just duplicated them. And I'm just going to hide my prop sword. I'm going to make a cylinder. So I'm going to leave them in the place so I don't move them around. Just going to rotate this round. And I'm going to use this one as the size reference, as if I do need to change it, this one's going to be easier to change because this has got a lot of stuff's hidden in this one. And I think we actually need to make this a little bit smaller so it's not catching, but let's just see how it goes. Cool, so that looks pretty perfect. So I'm just going to create a locator. I'm going to select my sprocket, then my locator. I'm going to select, make sure I'm in rigging, constraint, point. So now I've just got a locator in the center there, and all I want to use that for is just to snap my pivot point to there. I'm just going to Control D. You could probably do this a lot simpler by just making sure that your sprockets are correct, but 6. But I didn't do that. So I'm just going to Control D then, and I'm just going to double check that these are all even spaced, and I can see straight away that this is gonna, if I duplicate this all the way around, it's going to work. I don't need to do that though. So now I've got a decent spacing for my spaces. But I actually don't think the spaces go all the way down. Otherwise, that might be a bit... I don't know, I guess they do. Maybe I'm just thinking about it too much. So I'm just going to just group that and center it. I'm just going to bring these down, and I need this space to fit in this space, which it looks like my second sprocket is too big. So I'm going to scale this down. Hopefully it's not massively too big. Not sure how this is going to affect how it looks. I'm sure it should be fine though. But we need to make sure that, because I know these sprockets are evenly spaced, but we also need to make sure that this chain fits in the sprocket. And you don't necessarily even have to do this. You can just cheat it if you don't care about it. It doesn't really matter. It's one of those things that you'll probably never see, but if you do, it will be a nightmare to fix if you don't do it straight away. So I'm just scaling this and sort of roughly putting it so. So I'm just going to select that sprocket, and now this locator, I'm just going to point, so now that's in the center. I'm going to change my, let's delete that constraint. I'm just going to press insert and change my pivot point to the center of that. Extrude. Oops. So let's press Control D to duplicate. And hopefully this should be, won't be the same degree, so it's something around 33.2. So if I duplicate that again to minus 33.2, not 33.2, that would be 60. Hold on, my math is bad. Oh, it's because we let's delete that. Let's freeze that first. Control D. So that's actually, let's say that's 47.7. Control D and just stick a minus on the front of that. You can see that's pretty much perfectly in the correct space-ish. So now we've got a sprocket that we know it's going to fit at least most of the way. Let's just hide that for now. And let's see how different it is. And it's quite a bit smaller. But I think that'll be okay, you know. I think in fact, we probably can just have a look at the reference, so we'll probably have to scale this down. Oh no, we don't, because there's a gap. It's fine. I knew I'd left a gap there for some reason, so that's fine. So I think that's good. We've got a sprocket size that fits both now. Almost look. Yeah, that's fine. It's not. It's. They look almost the same size, but the gear ratio is definitely different. So which is what we're sort of aiming for. Cool. So we're going to leave that as that. Let's hide our chainsaw again. Bring back our group. So I'm just going to orthographic front. And I'm just going to create a locator. I'm just going to snap this back at the origin. I'm just going to hide my reference for now. Center this and bring this back to the origin. So now we have two pieces of link that will fit nicely in the center. but I'm going to create a new one. Just going to use that as ref. I'm going to scale this down. Just because I know I've rotated those, and I just don't want to. And Control D. Cool. So now I can delete these, and I've got my spaces. So no, we don't really need our reference because it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. But it's always useful to sort of have it, even on the simplest things. It's very easy to sort of make it look wrong. So we've got our spaces. We actually didn't check the thickness. Because we want to keep these at, for now we're going to keep these at the origin, because when we use mesh we need to keep them there, basically. And I don't think I need that many subdivisions, so I can just probably smooth it. Let's keep it on 12. Just going to snap that to there. Delete the higher res one. Cool. So, in fact, what I will do is just extrude these out and fill the holes. We don't necessarily need them to have a let's keep them as solid things, because we don't necessarily have to have them, because we're not going to see the insides ever. This is kind of, this geometry is almost stuff that's never going to be seen ever. Like, we can almost guarantee that, but it's entirely up to you. We'll optimize some of the geometry when we come to the UVing, probably. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this, because this shouldn't take very long. We need to make sure that our vertices are actually in the right place. So let's just press 3. Double check we've not done anything strange. So I'm just going to select those edges and bevel those. We're working at quite a small scale at the moment, so cool. So I'm just going to Control D and snap that to the middle. So now we've got 2 spaces. And in fact, let's not delete that one yet. This is going to be, so our first link from the spacer on this one is always an inside. I guess it makes sense for it to be an inside, but they look like they're exactly the same. So it's quite important to get this sort of spacing right, because it's one of these things that it's very easy to look weird if you don't get it right. Might actually be easier if I put it on that side. Might probably make more sense. I think it's a little bit bigger. Cool. It's obviously not that thick, because we're going to double it up. just going to Control D, snap to the center there. So now we've got two inner links. We can select them both and go Mesh, Combine. Now we just need to get this sort of dipped in shape. So we can quite easily do that by selecting. What I will do, I'll just, when you're bridging multiple polygons, I prefer to delete them just in case. Oh, I've selected one too many. Oh no, I haven't selected enough. Yeah, I prefer to delete them just so I don't make double-sided faces, which is really easy to do. Just G to repeat command. Then I'm just going to bridge all these. And do the same on the other side. Now we need to make one in this cut down the center. Just going to scale that. Cool. All I'm going to do is select these, scale, and I'm going to roughly sort of match that. So I just press 3, I'll get a good idea of how much it's going to bend. Obviously we need to fix this sort of nastiness in the middle, so we can delete that and delete that. Select all these edges and Control E. Ooh. Let's undo that. Let's delete the history and freeze the transformations. Center it. Might have to do them one at a time because there's probably this edge loop here that's probably breaking it. I think that's probably it. Oh no. So I'm just going to select my scale tool, and we're not going to see the hole, so it doesn't matter. We can roughly get it closer to the middle. If we go to our orthographic front, we can get it lined up fairly close. Just going to fill the hole. And fill the hole on the other side. Select my multi-cut. And I'm just going to finish this geo off. So you can make the hole if you want, but I don't think there's much point, because in reality it'll probably be moving quite fast. You're probably not going to see much of the chain. You'll only really see the chain detail once it's probably stationary and not moving. But we might do it for the outer one, depending on how it looks. And I think I may have just accidentally extruded that twice, so let's go back. Panels, orthographic front. Let's just hide that for now. Let's fill a hole. Fill a hole on that side. Then we'll just go multi-cut. So if we press 3, let's just double check. Oh, we haven't done the other side. Let's multi-cut there. Just make sure you deselect the vertices. I'm just going to press 3, just check everything. It all looks fine. So now the next thing to do would be to bevel these edges. So nice and tight. And this will be a very sharp bevel. Let's press 3. Where is that other cylinder gone? I must have... Did I accidentally delete it? Oops. I don't know where that went, but we can just duplicate this and flip it 180, and we're back. Let's freeze those transforms. Cool, so we've now got this inner section. We can duplicate that. And now, if we look at our reference, it's basically exactly the same. Looks like the same size. So let's select this and duplicate it. We need to push this on the outside. And we've got a basic sort of chain. And we can actually duplicate this. And center it, and we can use this for our pin. So we want to make sure that we're getting a pretty good size for the pin. We're not making it a sort of weird scale, because scale is the biggest thing pretty much. It's for the sort of realism side of things, so let's just center that. And let's go to our wireframe shaded so we can see. I think we're going to need to definitely going to need to make a hole here. Just want to make sure that these are perfectly aligned. slightly off. So luckily that's easy to fix, so I can just select all those. And bridge, then bevel, let's just see how that looks. So let's undo that. Let's just press 3 and get this. If we hold shift and use transform component, this is better than scaling because we're just actually pushing it in one direction. We're not changing the thickness of it. So I'm just using the transform component to bring it in really close. So now if I select my edges and bevel, bring that really tight. Just 3. It's even a little bit too. Can't really see. Just sort of see it there. Cool. So if I just center that, then I can just delete that half. Control D, E, and just flip that over 180. Just join those together. Mesh, combine. Set the vertices. Edit mesh and merge. So probably going to have to, before merging, probably have to scale this up, because obviously we're working at such a small scale. That merge 0.1 is not really going to do much, and I actually don't think that's going to change. We'd have to bake it off actually, and I don't want to do that, so I am just gonna painfully do it manually, because it's such a small scale. Probably want to change near clipping plane. Like you probably could just scale this up, then but you have to freeze the transforms for it to work. Then you have to scale it down. Then sometimes, I know this seems a bit crazy doing it this way, but sometimes manual is just easier because you just know it's done. They're on top of each other, so it's fairly simple. Make sure you're only selecting the thing you want to merge though. And that's why it's a bit of a, that's why I always want to work at real world scale with anything. So if you're working at a tiny scale, it could be a bit of annoying to model, but we're working at a pretty small scale as it is, so. Cool, anyway, it's done. Cool. Right. Oh. So let's just delete that one, we don't need it. Just Control D. Get that to the center of there. And we don't need that because we have that on that side. And now we have a full chain link. I could probably scale this down a tiny bit, but we want to be able to see it. And I think maybe let's combine these. I think even maybe the figure of 8 has to be more prominent. Let's mesh combine these. In fact, I just want to make sure that I do it to both of them at the same time, so I'm just going to combine them both. Just so I can select the vertices and make that sort of figure of 8 shape a bit more prominent, because it looks a bit weak at the moment. Yeah, and I can just edit mesh, extract. Mesh, combine. I'm just going to delete the history and center it. Same for this one. Cool. So we've pretty much made our single link. So in the next one, we will, let's actually just delete all the history of all these and just, and the next one we will, let's get rid of all this as well, all these. Let's just clean it all up. So in the next one we will set it up to go along a spline. Because we don't need to model the whole thing, we just go probably, we'll just duplicate this along the spline. We won't do an instance because then we can, we need to UV it. But yeah, we're pretty much done with just making the chain link, so it's pretty basic. The next one will make it go around the sprocket. So if you've enjoyed this tutorial, hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.